Well, thank you very much. Good to be here. Bismarck, North Dakota in November. Hey, how could I turn that down? Last time I was here was this exact week, I want to say about 2 years ago, maybe 3. It was 70 degrees, and I remember driving down the interstate, and there was a guy wearing flip-flops, shorts, and a tank top in a convertible with the top open in Bismarck, North Dakota in November. Now, I'm sure he's not doing that today, but I just found that very interesting and shocking all at the same time. So, Bismarck, North Dakota. What can a farmer in Nebraska bring? And I want to bring some value today, and I love the discussion that we've had. And I want to tell you a little bit about myself. How many of you know who I am or ever heard of me before? They got 3 people. Awesome. All right. We've got nowhere to go but up from here, right? All right. Well, after today, you'll probably wish you never had heard of me. Who knows? All right. But I'm going to talk about managing your farm future. I'm going to talk a lot about philosophy, and it really doesn't matter if you farm, you have a business. I'm going to give you a lot of things maybe today just on philosophy, just to think outside the box, look at things a little bit differently. And I'm just going to disguise it behind my farm and my operation and what I do. I'm an anomaly. I am not normal. You need to know that right up front. For example, when I was a kid, my parents let me play with my grandfather when I was young. He was dead at the time. They put his ashes in my Etch-a-Sketch, and so that's how I grew up. Don't worry, you'll tell that one later. That's okay. All right. All right, so I'm going to talk about farming regeneratively and staying profitable. It's not very easy the last few years to be profitable on the farm. Let me ask you a question. Let's begin with this. Where do you see your operation headed? And I realize that there's not a lot of farmers here today, but let me tell you, last year I watched all the videos from this. When you get on a tractor and you're by yourself and you got YouTube, you can take in a lot of different things. So I know there may be some people that will watch this later. And so I'm also a county commissioner. I drew the short straw in our county. And so I'm going to be real careful with the things that I say here since this is going to be recorded on YouTube, okay? So I'm just so you know. What kind of ideas will you develop? What kind of ideas will you develop? I want you to think about that. You've heard presentations over the last couple of days about some different ideas, the way people do things differently, right? My message is don't do it like I do it, and you might not do it like what the Sims do. Do it like you do it. Your environment is different. They talked about how their environment's different. My environment's different, right? So you got to think about what is it that you can provide and how can you do it, and come up with these ideas. How many people here ever wanted to write a book? Anybody? How many people have written a book? Isn't that funny how we have these ideas that we want to write a book? You have to take something from nothing and create it. Why haven't you created it yet? What's holding you back? So I want to begin with this. An old man golfing with a youngster. This is kind of like Jay, who is one of my idols. And I told him earlier, I said, a lot of my cohorts that I run with look up to Jay and to Gabe and for Minokan Farms and the things that you guys have started and created and the way you do things. And so this is kind of how I take me and my, I'm behind where they're at, and I want to get to where they're at. So this is how I look at it.
When I was a young man, I would hit that ball straight over that tree and onto the green. Of course, when I was a young man, that tree was only a few feet tall.
Trust your own judgment. Make it happen. RBS, the Royal Bank of Scotland.
Now, there's all kinds of lessons we can learn from that, right? So I've learned across the, over the years that you got to take the advice and the wisdom from those that have gone on before and learn from their mistakes, and then don't be afraid to make your own mistakes. So we're going to look at this today about thinking for a change a little bit. Is change going to happen? Absolutely. Change is inevitable. It's going to happen, whether you like it or not, right? It will happen. Change is inevitable, but progress is optional. It's up to you where you're going to go with your operation. Change is inevitable. Growth is optional. Do you want to grow? I was telling Jay earlier, Aristotle and Socrates were having a conversation. This is deep philosophy. Aristotle said, either you're growing, you're stagnant, or you're dying. Socrates rubbed his chin for a second. He said, no, either you're growing or you're dying. Which is it that you're doing? Where are you at in your operation? In your business? How about in your personal life? Are you improving? Well, you're here, so you're obviously going to make some benefits today and grow. Of course, my favorite is change is inevitable except from a vending machine. Right? Can I get an amen? All right. Changes are coming. Good friend of mine, Gail Fuller, used cover crops, lost his crop insurance. Government's always a few steps behind, right? How about commodity markets? Everybody like where those things are at? How about the cattle market? Doing good? Could always be better. How many like $7 corn? $3.50 corn. Great, isn't it? Right? Commodity markets. What can you do about commodity markets? If that's what you are, a commodity farmer like what I used to do. How about the price of technology? Is that always changing? Bag of seed corn, when I started, doesn't matter when I started. When I started, it was like $99. It was just getting close to that $100 mark. Today, $250, right? $300. I've heard some that's in the $400s. Just for more technology. How about consumer buying habits? Are they changing any? They are? So, do you want to tell the consumer to buy your product? Or do you provide the consumer what you have and you provide what the consumer demand is? It's the way we think. When I learned that, it changed the way I farm. How about trade wars? They have any impact in today's economy, markets, anything? You realize that when Trump finally signs a trade deal with China, you know what's going to happen? They'll buy the same exact amount they were buying before. To see if I'm right. So here's my story. Here's where I farm. People say, where's Venango, Nebraska at? And I know you're dying to know. You know where Omaha's at? No one does? You know where Omaha's at? It's nowhere near Omaha. Okay? That's how I describe it. I am so close to Colorado that I can see that haze come over the border, if you know what I'm talking about, all right? This is one of the few pictures I have with my grandfather who really gave me the opportunity, and I've heard a lot of today about grandpas. Well, it was my grandpa and I were on the farm, two bachelors out there batching it. We'd drive around and he'd say, oh boy, you should never have to live through the 30s. That was horrible. Well, when he passed away in 2001, and I think you guys talked about 2002 having a drought. Well, that thing trickled on down the hill to me. It was the driest year on record in southwest Nebraska, even drier than what the 30s were. And I thought, this is you getting back at me, isn't it? And I thought, if I can survive that, I can survive anything. So a lot of things have changed on the farm. I wanted to put in a little plug. I am part of this Nebraska Soil Health Task Force. Talk a little bit about some of the things that I do. This is one of something that's very important to me. 18 months we've been given, the Nebraska Soil Health Task Force was a bill that was passed in the legislature for Nebraska to put together a plan for soil health. And we've been given the task of 18 months to put together a strategic plan to guide Nebraska in soil health. And there's about 15 members, and we're putting together a team of all kinds of participants across the state. And throughout the country to help us formulate an initiative for the future. So I wanted to throw that little plug into that of what Nebraska's doing. I'm really excited about that, and we'll see where we can go with that. But in light of that, here's what I see happening across the country is we have all of these different entities, different way people think, whether it's the regenerative farming movement, the conventional guys, permaculture, organic. What we see is coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, but working together is success. And if you would go and pull any of the farm journals from 20 years ago to today, 20 years ago was how do we till and till better, to today is cover crops and soil health. Just see how much the world has changed in just 20 years. So this is where I started. We were a wheat summer fallow. Anybody ever see that across North Dakota at all? Wheat summer fallow. It's pretty common, wasn't it? You know what? I've been to food shows. If you walk through food shows today, you know how much they brag about being gluten-free? That hurts a wheat farmer, doesn't it? All right? So we did no-till corn, where we planted corn in the wheat stubble. That was our next generation. Do you see a theme? Grass. Lots of grass, which is what the prairies did, but lots of grass into it. Next thing one of the first things that really hit me that changed was Dan Gillespie from Nebraska and the NRCS came to my place and did the soil rainfall simulator. Anybody seen that? That should be mandatory for every farmer to see, because it just changed the way I think about agriculture. So he came and did that demonstration, and then it led me to this, about changing my paradigms, changing the way that I think, right? Used to compete with nature. Used to go out and till and disturb the soil. Used to plant a lot of monocultures, which Lana talked today about adding diversity, doing different things. And I think she just opened the door of what is out there, what could change, right? And a reductionist mindset. And when we look at it today, we can partner with nature. We can protect the soil. We add diversity to it and be holistic in the way we think. And I think you see a lot of that today in what we've been talking about. Of course, you know the 5 principles of soil health, all these things that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. But once I started incorporating those things into it, it becomes it makes management fun, but it also creates new challenges to it. So this is kind of where I live. Back in the dirty 30s, right? Do you like pictures like that? This is what my grandparents used to live through back when they were kids. All right? Well, fast forward to 2017. There it is. Hasn't changed much, has it? Uh-oh. Here's 2018. This is in Nebraska on Interstate 80. This is a wreck caused by dirt blowing across the highway. Now, that should be a crime. That should never happen in what we know today. That's my opinion, but that should be illegal. That kind of stuff right there should not happen. Does the wind ever blow here? Rarely? Okay. It's just, I only get it because these guys in Wyoming put windmills up. It didn't start till that happened. So here's something different I do. You know what I'm harvesting there? Yellow peas with a stripper header. Anybody try that before? That's thinking differently. Yellow peas, stripper headers were designed for yellow peas. That's what they were made for. But that keeps, look at the residue that's left behind that. I mean, I just love what those things can do. Here, talk about diversity. I just want to show some pictures. Yeah, I'm crazy. I planted chickpeas and flax together, and that's my field. Now, this is how I did it. I planted the flax one direction at an inch deep or half 3/4, and then next day came out with the drill, put it down at 2 inches, and planted the chickpeas the other direction. So that was the way we tried it, and it looked beautiful, and it yielded just as good, and there is no fungicide application at all on that. I can get away with that because there's only about 3 of us that grow chickpeas where I live, and they're just, the disease pressure in our high heat environment is not near what you guys would have here. Here's another thing that gets me excited when people start coming to my farm and they pull these little clods of soil. What do you see there? Fungi, a wormhole with things growing in it. I mean, that just gets me excited. I don't know exactly what you're looking at, but that's just cool to see. Thought I'd throw that in there. That tells me I'm going the right direction, right? So Jay and I were speaking in Colorado, in Alamosa, Colorado, here, what was that, a year ago or so, something like that. And someone asked Jay about putting sheep with cattle. And so I got into livestock a couple, 3 years ago, and a guy heard me speak one time, says, hey, Steve, can I bring you some cows and put on your place? And I thought, hey, yeah, absolutely, because I'm looking for somebody to partner with the cows. I don't have cows. I'm basically ignorance on fire when it comes to cows. They taste good. But a guy said, I'll come and bring you cows, and then you calve them out, and you get half the calves. And I thought, that sounds like a good deal. My hired man comes to me one day, and he says, hey, can I get some sheep? Okay, hey, more livestock, more animals going across. I get to harvest the benefits of what comes out the back end. Hey, let's do it. So somebody asked Jay, can you put sheep and cattle together? He says, oh, you need to put like 6 wires up and 3 chargers on it, and you're still asking for a disaster. So I get up after Jay, and I said, well, here's my picture of cows and sheep together. We put 1 wire. We put them right by the highway. We never had a problem with them. So now, I'm not going to lie. The sheep did get out a few times. Not here, but at a different place. My hired man was planting something one day, and I said, I'm going to go up and check your sheep. He goes, all right. I call him up, and I say, your sheep are not here. He goes, no, they're over the hill. I said, no, I drove around the whole field. They're not here. There was a guy working in the field beside it. I called him up. I said, hey, have you seen the sheep? He goes, nope, I haven't seen nothing out here. So I drive around a section. I drive around 2 sections. I drive around forever. I gave up. A couple hours later, the guy working the field calls me back and said, your sheep are coming back. So you know what? You don't need a wire for sheep. They'll come back. I don't know why we put wires up. As long as they know where the water's at, they'll be fine. Neighbors don't complain, we're okay. All right, so here's some of the other crazy stuff I've done. I'm just laying out some basis to where we're going to go here in a minute. I took Elaine Eagum's class and talked about inoculating your seed with some biological stuff, and I made my own compost. Didn't let it go for very long, but took it, turned it into a tea mixture, and took that and inoculated my wheat seed with it, went and pulled the wheat seed samples. What do you see about that? What makes that significant? You see a wheat plant with roots, and what do you notice about it? All that soil sticking to those roots, right? That tells me that biology is very active around those roots, right? Nebraska came out, they did a little study, pulled up the samples and looked at the biological makeup of what's around that, and then went across the field and we stole a sample out of the neighbor who doesn't do anything like that, conventional farm, and there was quite a bit of difference, and I don't have the data that he didn't give me the data, but he just shared with me what he found. He said there's a lot of beneficial bacteria that you have that he doesn't have, a lot of beneficial fungi that are in there. So it tells me we're going the right way. Start thinking biological. You know, when I was in college, they taught us all about the physical properties of soil. They taught us all about the chemical aspect of it, but rarely ever did we talk about the biological aspect. And that's what I'm more interested in. I think that is the direction. When Jay spoke at No Till on the Plains, I sat and I watched the audience of like 10,000 people at that conference. Is that how many is there? Easily, seemed like it. But he spoke to this wide, vast, and he talked about all the things they were doing at Minokan Farms, and he talked about doing his biological, what do you call that? Inoculation liquid stuff that he recycled through. And when he got done, all of the questions from the audience were about the inoculant part. Nobody else cared about the rest of what he talked about. It was all about the biological aspect. That's the way we're thinking. That's the direction we're headed. How can roots grow in something like that? Biology has to have some kind of play in that. So here's what I do. This is 2018, but 2019 isn't a whole lot different. I grow a bunch of different kinds of wheat, hard red winter, rye, triticale, corn, non-GMO, 4 different kinds of millet. A lot of these go for millet seed. A lot of these go for seed. Across the country, yellow and green field peas. We do a lot of yellow peas, and I'll talk a little bit about what we did. Sunflowers, chickpeas, soybeans, and flax, and then barley and oats for seed. A lot of those things go into cover crop. A lot of cover crop seed. If it doesn't make cover crop seed, look over to the right, I turn it into livestock feed. We make the best chicken feed in Nebraska. We use fur trail mineral, we bring that in, and we make chicken feed out of that for people that got the layers. And I cannot tell you how many people tell me that if they run out of my feed and then go to the store and buy something, their chickens will not eat it. So I'm proud of that. I'm not sure what that means, but they like that stuff. And that's because we put all of the leftover stuff that doesn't make grade or doesn't germ, we can turn it into another enterprise, okay? A lot of those things we can turn into cover crop seed mixes, we can blend them. So you see the animals that we have into it, cattle, we do some pigs throughout the summer, chickens and sheep. However, my wife is getting tired of doing all the chickens. I told her, those are your chickens. She's getting tired of doing that. So our chickens are kind of coming down. My hired man did add goats to the repertoire. Another story, you're going to think my hired man should be fired, but he brought goats one day. He said, goats are going to be here in an hour. And he puts them in the fence behind my house the day before Mother's Day weekend. And then he says, the goats are back there, they should be fine. And he's going to Oklahoma to see his mom for Mother's Day. Now, I cannot say, you need to stay with your goats. So he left. And after he left, the goats left. And I spent half of the day looking for his goats, and I gave up. And I got a phone call in the evening and said, hey, you got goats? I said, no, I don't have goats. My hired man has goats. Where are they? He says, well, they're in Colorado. So I drive to Colorado. Now, we're about 15 miles from my house. The guy says, well, they were just here. He said you wouldn't have to worry about goats if they would have got on my pickup, which I would have been fine with, because he said I'd have plugged every one of them. But they didn't get on his pickup, and couldn't find the goats. It got dark. So I go home. Well, Monday, after Mother's Day, my hired man calls the sheriff's department, and they say, yeah, they're over by I-76. They're like 35 miles from my house. Now, these things are ready to drop young ones, but they ran 35 miles away. So he rounds them up, brings them all back, and we still have goats. Now the goats are with the sheep that are now going to get put in with the cattle throughout the winter. Now they're going to be close to his place, so he has to worry about them, okay? Because the last thing I want to do is be chasing these things in the wintertime. All right, enough of my problems. Let's talk business, all right? Let's put our philosophy thinking caps on. It doesn't matter what you do. These principles can apply to anything you want to do, okay? So let's just talk about it a little bit. Building an entrepreneur. And if you're a farmer, I'm going to speak mainly to you, but these things work all over. Because what we have in front of us is unparalleled opportunity. Now, you may not know that where you sit, but if you take what Dan Kittredge has started to put together and can grow for the consumer a higher value product, do you think that will put more money in your pocket? Let me answer that for you, yes, if you can provide that, okay? There's unparalleled opportunity. You just have to look for it. You have to find it in technology, in food production, and in consumer demand. Think about those opportunities. What is out there that people have? When I realized that the grain elevator is not my end customer, a lot of light bulbs went on. Start looking for opportunities. I love to market. Does anybody here like to sell? Is there anyone here that is not a salesman? Oh, you're not a salesman? Why?
I'm a technician for the ARS. I basically help us transform their experience.
All right. Why are you not a salesman, though? Why do you consider yourself not a salesman?
I guess I do have to sell myself.
Oh, now we're changing our tune a little bit. Oh. All right, the guy beside you. I'm gonna pick on you. Why are you not a salesman? You what? Not your first choice? All right. Anybody over here not a salesman? You're not? Why do we not like to sell? What is it about? Do you like to sell? Why?
I'm not good at it.
You're not good at it? Why? Don't like to talk to people. Don't like to be put on the spot.
I don't like the heckling that happens.
You don't like to put pressure on people? You almost sold me on the fact that you're not a salesperson. Are you married? You are? Did you have to sell yourself? Did he buy you? It's not comfortable, isn't it?
I'm not married, so I must not be a very good salesperson.
Well, I got news for you. We're all salespeople. Whether you like it or not, you've got something to offer someone, right? If you have a job, did you have to sell yourself? So when we start thinking in those terms, you know why used car salesmen pressure you? Where's that pressure come from? You ever go to a car dealership? When I was in college, I went to a car dealership. They had this big Corvette that they put out on the front. And I thought, well, I'm just going to stop in there and look at that car. I really don't want a Corvette. I can't fit in a Corvette, but I didn't want a Corvette. But I wanted to look at the Corvette. So I stopped there, and the guy said, come into my office. Let's talk about it. $40,000 for this nice red fancy Corvette. Now, you know what? I had no desire to buy this Corvette. But I thought, let's just have a little fun. That's the way I operate. Sat in the guy's thing, and you know how they get up and they go and they talk where you can see them talking, and they're talking. I'm going, yeah, talk whatever you want. I don't care. And he comes back in. He goes, I think we can do this Corvette for $39,500. I went, really? That's great. See ya. No pressure on me whatsoever because I had no desire to buy this Corvette. You know when you feel pressure? It's from within. So it's like a car tire. Pressure comes from within. You are all salespeople. You all have the ability to do it. It's when I realize that I can go sell myself on these unparalleled opportunities that are out there. Do your homework. How to position yourself for the future? Diversify. I went from a wheat summer fallow farm to all those enterprises. One night, my wife's sitting there and she's reading on the internet or something. She goes, honey, that tells me you need to tune in and listen. She said, do you realize, it says here, that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income? How many do you have? See, on a farm, you can have multiple streams of income. When I realize that, I can diversify. I can do different things. Have more than one skill. Have more than one skill. Do multiple things. Provide more value to the market. This is what we did. So yellow peas were only growing up in North Dakota. We thought, hey, why should they be making all the money up here growing peas and garbanzo beans? Let's move them to Nebraska. So we brought, I would spend $2,000 at least to bring a semi-load of peas to Nebraska. And I thought, wow, this is really expensive. Why can't we grow yellow pea seed in Nebraska? So my partner and I got together and we started AgriForce Seed, where we could grow pea seed together and provide it for people who were looking at adding a legume, broadleaf, into our rotation. So we started planting peas. Now, guys would come up to me and they'd say, hey, I'm growing peas. What can I do with them? And I'd go, I didn't know of any opportunity. So I went to a pet food show. You know how hard it is for a farmer to sell into the pet food market? It's impossible. They wanted to buy from brokers who gave them quality assurance. So we found a broker that we partnered with, the Redwood Group down in Kansas City, and they helped us build a facility where we could process and deal with the peas that we grow there. And so opportunity, right? Diversify, have more than one skill. My wife wanted a couple of hoop houses. We built some hoop houses. Then we watched them blow away. And so we built them again. And I'm not kidding you. The second time we did it, we put the plastic on. And I'm like, 24 hours, that's all it lasted. Yeah, it's painful. Learn from my mistakes. Don't do it like I do it, all right? So now we did it for the third time. It is up, and so far it has made it through the summer. She grew a lot of things for the farmer's market. That's a lot of work. Talked to a guy. He said, how about you do cut flowers? A lot more money in cut flowers. It's a lot simpler, a lot of opportunity, okay? And we live a long ways from anywhere, but guess what? There's opportunities for people who want cut flowers, and you cut them, bring them, drop them off. She wants to grow ginger. Ginger, I mean, there's a lot of money for ginger. And she said, if I grow it, will you market it? And I said, hey, my mouth's my office. I keep it open all the time. So I love doing it. So there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of things we can do, right? Think outside the box. Do things differently. All right, so here's a simple economic formula. Once I learned this, it started turning on the light bulbs of opportunity. We get paid for the value that we bring to the market, right? At your job, you get paid for the value that you bring to the market. How many of you think you're not making enough money? All right, those of you who raise your hands, you're going to get paid for you're not bringing enough value to the market, obviously. Okay? So how do you fix that? It's the value that you become. Right? Why is Jay valuable? Should we ask his wife? No? No? Okay, well, it's the value that you become. It's the value that you bring, right? Your future depends on what you become. This applies to your life, your relationships, your farm, your business, everything. Your income's determined not by the economy. Pay attention to this. If we go through a depression that they predict in the next couple years, your income doesn't matter what the economy does. It's by your own personal philosophy. If we have a depression, I'm just going to choose not to participate. Can I get an amen? All right, so let's choose not to participate in it. Let's find ways to bring value to the market. Work on your programming, learn from others. That's what you're doing here, right? You didn't think you were going to learn this from me, did you? Some guy who lives in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska? All right, you're going to learn from others because this is the kind of stuff I spend my time learning about. Read the books. Watch and observe. And you've seen a lot of that over the course of today, right? People have done these things, and you can go and look at the results of what you're getting. Does it work or does it not? Your personal experience. Before you do it right, you will do it wrong, right? Trust me. I can tell you for a fact that faba beans will not grow in southwest Nebraska. It cost me about $5,000 to prove that, but they will not grow as an edible crop. Now, they'll grow, and they'll put a flower on, and then they'll slough it because it gets too hot. See, when it gets over 85 degrees, which it does on a routine basis, then faba beans don't like to flower or don't like to put a pod on. I had a faba bean that was about 4 feet tall with 100 flowers on it and not one pod. So that became my cover crop. That's what that was. Learn from my mistakes, personal experience. Before you do it right, you may do it wrong. All right? But you develop your philosophy around that. What can grow, what can't? What can I do? How do I do this right? Ask a lot of questions, right? We spend so much time living in the information. You know where the real growth is? It's in the question. It's in the question. So get it into motion. Take your ideas. You want to write a book? That's an idea until you put it on paper. Turn imagination into substance. And it's all about the activity, the work, the labor that goes into it. All right? How does a house get built? You take nothing and turn it into something, right? It starts with imagination. What do you want to do? And then have the faith that it can be possible. All right? And then go to work. All right. Life has no remote control. If you don't like it, get up and change it, right? Change is inevitable. If you don't like your situation, then do it. And we've been looking at these. Opportunity. With opportunities come competition. Once we started a pea seed company in Nebraska, we were the only ones. In Nebraska, we had a monopoly for about 2 years. Now everybody wants to do it. We started a company that we could actually take peas in and process it. Then all of a sudden, 3 more popped up. With opportunity comes more competition. With competition, makes yourself better, doesn't it? So diversify, add more skills. What sets you apart from your competition? And then work to develop a philosophy. Make a plan and put that plan in motion, but do so by adding value to others. Adding value to others. Here's what I like. In order for me to win, you must lose, right? There's a lot of that type of philosophy in the country today. Now, I don't like that philosophy. I don't subscribe to that philosophy very often. It doesn't work very well in my marriage. It doesn't work very well with the kids. But maybe I could explain it in a demonstration. Would anybody like to volunteer? In fact, how about you two right there? Come on up here. Have you ever seen me speak before? Okay, good. This might work then. Do you guys know each other? No. You guys married? No. All right, no, I don't either. Okay, very good. All right, so here's what we're going to do. The object of this game is to win. Okay? Now, how you win...
Can I just give up now?
Nope. No, I want you to play this out like you really mean it. Because there's a lot of people watching this, all right? And it's going to be on YouTube probably, all right? So here's what I want you to do. Stand here and face each other and go like you're going to arm wrestle. All right? So are you guys competitive? Yeah. All right, this will be good then. Maybe. All right. So here's what we're going to do. The object is to win, and how you win is to put your hand on the other person's shoulder. Does that make sense? No, that's not the right hand. This hand on the other person's shoulder, okay? Are you ready? Do you understand the rules?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, go.
No, you can't overpower.
Now you got to keep your hands together.
Gotta work together.
Come on. Oh, see that? I must explain it too good. Because what's supposed to happen? How do you guys use what? Do it again.
We failed.
And one of you is going to win. Let's go. Let's find a winner. Let's go. Keep your hands together. That's cheating. All right, here we go. Go.
This isn't fair, though.
Why? Okay. Now, what do you see when you resist? Does anybody win? Did you guys win? Did anybody win?
No.
And that's what you want to do, right? You want to grab hold, and for me to win means you're going to lose, right? Mm-hmm. Well, how do we make this a win-win? Do you guys ever do this in your marriage? In order for you to win, she has to lose?
Yes.
I've never won. We're married.
You never won. So you just give up everything. That doesn't make you win. See, that's what happens in society today is for me to win, you have to lose. And let me tell you, if that's the way the game's going to be played, that's what's going to happen because I don't lose. But how about we make this a win-win? And you guys started off and you got the idea beginning. Go ahead, show us how you win. How both of us can win. Look at that. Can we both win? Absolutely. Why is it everything in society has got to be for me to win, you have to lose? This comes on the farm. Why do I have to battle Mother Nature all the time? Why can't I just work along with it? You know, if you guys would work together, which you guys do, I think you guys do a great job. You guys have got down. You know what you do, and we got this down. I mean, give them a round of applause for what they do. All right, thanks for helping out. Yes. But you see, if we change our mindsets where everything can be a win-win, How does that change our operations, our business, our team meetings? Right? I'll tell you a story. This is where it first came to light for me. Art Linkletter and Walt Disney there in the picture. Walt Disney had this great idea. Found this piece of ground in California. Said, I'm going to build this great amusement park. It was an idea. Nothing was built, just this marsh ground. Said, I'm going to build this amusement park. He went to his friend, Art Linkletter. He said, come with me. And he took Art Linkletter out to this area south of Los Angeles. And they walked out, and he said, Art, here's the deal. I'm going to build this huge amusement park. It's going to be huge, and everybody from the world is going to come here. But he said, I can only finance the amusement park. But I'm going to give you the opportunity, first one, because you're my good friend, Art. I'm going to let you have the ground around it to put hotels up, if you want to do it. And Art Linkletter looked at that, and they turned around, and they walked away. And Art Linkletter declined. And he said, by declining, he said, those steps cost me $1 million a step. Because his friend Walt Disney was going to give him the opportunity to win with him. But he didn't take it. And that's the story that Art Linkletter tells. So how my thinking has changed. I used to think, Gabe Brown said to me one time, he was speaking, he said, I used to wake up every morning and I would think, what am I going to kill today? You know, when he made that statement about 6 years ago, that's exactly where I was at. Every morning I would wake up and I would think, what weed, what bug, what kid, scratch that. What problem am I going to have to kill today? Mother Nature does not like to be naked, does she? She likes to be covered. So how can I keep my farm covered, my ground covered? Soil does not need sunshine to grow. Well, there's a novel concept. Boy, I used to provide it lots of sunshine, but guess what? Soil doesn't grow with sunshine. Don't do it like I do it like you do it, right? And always ask questions, which makes me real popular in church. Well, who made that rule, right? Who made that rule? Why is it we have to do it that way? Somewhere, someone is looking for exactly what you have to offer, right? You study your market, what's out there? What's an opportunity that you have to grow something that somebody wants? Once I realized that the grain elevator is not my end user, that there's a soccer mom somewhere in California that will want something I have, like chickpeas or peas or non-GMO wheat. Think about that for a second. Okay, you're with me. All right. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight, right? If you don't like the way, I spoke at a conference in Louisville, Kentucky at the Acres Conference. Guy comes up to me afterwards and he says, I have 400 acres of organic farm and I'm about to lose it. I said, well, tell me, and I gave him something similar to what you're getting today. I said, tell me what's going on. What do you do? He says, well, I live an hour and a half from Louisville and an hour and a half from Indianapolis, and I'm about to lose the farm, 400 acres of organic. He sits in between umpteen million people and cannot find a way to make it on a 400-acre organic farm. It's because he's not opening his eyes and getting out of the box and looking at the opportunities that are right before him. But he opened his eyes after he saw this presentation because he could see things differently because his philosophy started to change. And you can't change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction by the way you look at things. This is how you get a hold of me. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook. You can call me 24/7. I am a fire chief, so you may call me at 3 in the morning. I may not answer, but you can call me. But I am an open book, and like I say, my office is open all the time. And I'll leave you with this. Get out of the box and try something new. Sometimes you got to feel the fear and do it anyway. Don't do it like I do it. Don't do it like the Sims do it. Do it like you do it, right? There's opportunities that exist out there in this country. This is the greatest country in the world. There's all kinds of things that exist. I go to food shows. You know why? Because there's people that want to buy my product. You know what they want to buy really? They want to buy me. They want to buy me because they want to buy from somebody they know and trust. Do I look like a trustworthy guy? What do you think? How could they turn me down? Right? Never be afraid to try something new. Just remember, amateurs built the Ark, professionals built the Titanic. All right, thank you very much.